Ohayo gozaimasu. Oh, say your oh. And while you're breathing, breathe in some herbs. Okay, this is what happened to the spearmint when I was away and it wasn't watered. And so, normally I would take it and go compost it or something. But the thing is, even though it doesn't look perfect, it doesn't look beautiful, and that brings us to the line of the day, oh so quickly, which is, when I consider everything that grows holds in perfection but a little moment. And here's this little moment for the spearmint. Yeah, you crush it and it's crunchy, but it still releases that amazing smell that when you breathe it in, it clears the brain fog. Rosemary is stronger for that, and rosemary is for remembrance, as Ophelia tells us. This is still has the oils in it, so everything holds in perfection but a little moment. And I was thinking about how that I remembered all these things to bring down with me to Washington, and there's our Penelope and roses and parsley. I put parsley in her head today, and she's got a little rose dropping down on her forehead. And I remembered these are my utility glasses because I can't find my regular glasses, and I brought a thing that holds my phone, and I can't find that either. So there's a learning moment in that. And I need to figure out what that is. But what I was thinking about, I was on Twitter this morning. They have these things called Shakespeare Sundays, where you pick a quote on the theme and illustrate it if you like, and it's fun. So all you Shakespeareans out there who are watching this, and even if you're not, it's a great way in, just by the same as Botanical Shakespeare. Quite frankly, is if you can gain entrance through one little quote that sparks your imagination, that sparks your creativity, that sparks your memory. I keep trying to get people to do a line of the day, and also to do the O and to resonate it, because the resonation connects, as I said, the vagus nerve, the head, and the heart. There's an actual nerve. And I was thinking, I'm sorry I'm late, because good thing I'm not getting paid for this. Is that a good thing? But, I'm doing this because I care about overall health. And we do the herbs with Hannah, who's a brilliant medical herbalist, because she knows how the herbs help you. Herbs, there we go again. And the Shakespeare helps you because of all of these different things, the resonance, the nervous system of the body, and it connects the mind and the heart, not just physically, but emotionally, and you could say spiritually. It enriches your soul, your mind, your body, and hopefully it's fun too, because the Renaissance tenet is learning through delight. But the tragedy of the whole pandemic and the tragedy of tragedies, I was giving a talk in Vermont last weekend, a couple talks, and we were talking about what constitutes a comedy, and everybody gets married at the end of the comedy. Now that's funny stuff. And at the tragedy, yeah, everybody dies, but also they didn't learn. Maybe they didn't learn the lesson that we all went on that journey with them for, and so that teaches us and tells us and informs us and helps us know that we need to learn along the journey. Even the pandemic holds in perfection but its little moment. The pre-pandemic, the post-pandemic, the wherever we are in this very interesting trajectory we are on right now. When I consider everything that grows holds in perfection but a little moment, and you go from moment to moment to moment. So, what am I learning? Preparation. Smell your herbs. I also went to the farmer's market. Oh, and I got this pallet of microgreens, which are fantastic for you. But of course, I only wanted to get Shakespeare ones, so I got garlic, and I got leek, and I got cabbage. So all of those are in Shakespeare. So I'll be healthily enriched by Shakespeare internally on a number of levels. And that's just the other thing I'm trying to get you to do is notice Shakespeare in your everyday world, out in the wild, at the farmer's market, at the grocery store, on the street, wherever you are. Plantain is everywhere, because it layers your thinking. And one of the things that I always moan about is that we, as a species, as a country, maybe a number of countries, have lost critical thinking skills. And so Shakespeare, I believe, provides that. So critical thinking skills will help you enormously in making decisions. Anyway, I got some saffron honey. Sorry, it's backwards. Look, let's just think I'm going punk today with the nails. And then za'atar. And I thought, what is that? And it's obviously not in Shakespeare, but he said it was a sort of oregano. So I thought it would be weird, but I love experiments and I love trying new things. So I got some, and it's actually incredibly refreshing. And we need to do a how to infuse your honey show or class or webinar or Zoominar or whatever you want to call it. And because it layers your honey. The honey is already healthful, especially if it's local honey for your immune system and all that stuff that we talked about in some other show. But also if you add an herb in, not only does it, shake up the flavor palette, the flavor profile, I think is the technical term, but it adds another layer of health properties to it. So anyway, so that's our line of the day. We've crushed and sniffed, and now we're going to bring on Hannah, I hope. Hannah, I'm sorry I'm so late. Okay. We're going to get fired by our corporate sponsors. Ha ha. I'm joking. Any corporate sponsors. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation, actually, about everybody wants that. Anyway, okay, so I had a little conversation with my friend Anna Savant, who's sort of an expert in status, and that's something that's worked with a lot in Shakespeare, and certainly a lot in just the business world. And she said, I can't have my head at the bottom of the screen anymore. So I'm trying to sit up and, be in alignment. So here we are. How are you?
Trying to sit up straighter now.
In alignment. Okay, Wormwood. So that's a line in Hamlet. And now we're going to discover what he's saying, what he's talking about when he says that.
Well, there's mugwort and there's wormwood. Yeah. And the two look fairly similar. They're both artemisias. But wormwood is Artemisia in Latin. Sorry to go back to Latin again. It's Artemisia absinthium. And it's the thing that really, really gives it away is the yellow flower. So that really is the way to pick it apart from mugwort, which has a sort of like a browny, sort of greeny flower. So they both kind of
greeny flowers. Go for the yellow. And just a quick aside about Hannah's Latin, Artemisia. I mean, first of all, that's a goddess of Artemis, is the goddess that's from, and also Artemisia Gentileschi was a famous or semi-famous, because she was a woman, Renaissance painter who did famous painting was Judith and Holofernes or Holofernes, depending on if you're talking about the Shakespeare one, where Judith chops off his head. Just a little artistic aside, but it kind of, it one, helped you remember, but also all of these connections. I think I had a teacher once who said, Shakespeare never says one thing when he can say two. He never says two things when he can say three. So all of this stuff is layered in there. Right, and you mentioned absinthe, or did you mention absinthe? No, I'm going to mention absinthe. Artemisia absinthia, is that what you said? So that's where absinthe comes from, which was banned for a long time in America. Was it banned in England as well?
Probably, I don't know.
I think we had prohibition, though. You did not. Yeah, so that is an incredibly strong liqueur. right? So,
Mm.
okay,
Yeah.
have you had me? I had some. It gave me a thumping headache.
I've never had it because it's the taste that just no, just my sense of smell does not like. But yeah, it's a constituent of wormwood that basically absinthe is kind of derived from. So and it's kind of where the names can give you hints as well. So Artemisia absinthium, it's part of the ingredients of absinthe. Interestingly, it's also found in vermouths as well. But then the common name wormwood gives you another hint, because historically it was used to treat intestinal worms.
Yeah, we put that in the story, the story for the show. Did you see the little dancing worm?
So that's kind of, so it comes under this class called sort of anthelmintics, which is a fantastic name, which kind of means anti-worm, anti-parasite, and I'm talking like in like the proper sort of state, not sort of the, let's say, the modern fashionable state of parasites. That's a whole other world of contention. Anyway,
the professional world of parasites. That will be our next series.
Don't get me going on that one. But the thing with wormwood, a little bit like mugwort, is that it is extremely aromatic. So it's, you can brush past it and kind of brush your hands on it, and it is a very, very good sort of crush and sniff herb. But with wormwood, it is very, very bitter, and it's very, very stimulating. And because of the nature of it being so bitter and so stimulating, its use in herbal medicine is in small doses for not very long, because it can cause problems if it's taken in large quantities and for long amounts of time. And also it's also not something to take if people are breastfeeding or pregnant as well. It's pokey.
Well, pokey? What's that mean?
Oh, strong.
Okay, in America, pokey means slow. We would say, slow. Yeah. Two countries separated by a common language. There's that thing again. So the nurse in Romeo and Juliet says she uses wormwood when she was weaning Juliet, and she says, "I put wormwood on my Doug," and she falls backwards. And so, you don't think that's a good idea to use it in weaning nowadays? No. Okay, because why?
Because it contains a lot of very, very powerful chemicals, and you just don't want to put it anywhere near a child. Full stop.
Okay. Well, I don't think they knew that then, and that's one of the things they used it for. And in the long narrative poem Lucrece, she says bitter wormwood taste. And I find that so interesting because there's so many places where Shakespeare defines the word for you, or, like a lot of times he'll tell you afterwards what it means. There's a line in Love's Labour's Lost where he's talking about pretty, and then he says small, because that was the original definition of pretty was little. So, yeah, diminutive. And it just sort of over time came to mean attractive in a certain way. So that's an interesting, another conversation for another time. Why is little pretty and not big? Anyway, so where does it grow? Where would one find it? At the edge of the hedge? That's Hannah's podcast.
Nicely woven in there. It's a wild plant, so it will grow on wastelands. It doesn't particularly, wastelands and on rough ground. It's kind of where it happens. It can be cultivated. Anything can be cultivated, but it's not something that needs a lot of care. It will just generally kind of grow where it is, really. And in terms of when it grows, it kind of grows up to sort of this point, and then it starts to turn to seed. It's kind of at its best in sort of midsummer to sort of start of August time. But I mean, there's still enough around now that looks kind of okay, really. I was hoping to find someone who went out for a walk early, but all I could find was mugwort, which wasn't what I was looking for.
Well, but it is. I do say in the book that it's in that family, and it's supposedly good for fertility and pregnancy. I mean, how does it help there? Do you know?
It's because it helps to because it's basically because of its stimulant action. So it's stimulating on the digestion. So it stimulates the appetite, digestion, liver, all that kind of thing that we've talked a lot about. Reproductively, it stimulates the reproductive organs. So if in the sense that it will bring on a menstrual period. So that's kind of, so often in cases where people are experiencing difficulty conceiving, it's quite often a case, not always by any means, but it's often a case that that there's not a regular reproductive cycle. So that's kind of, where that would fit in there in that stimulating base, but certainly not something that I would reach for as a first port of call on that side of things.
Right.
Much gentler things that you can do better.
That's so interesting. And it actually, again, informs that passage with the nurse, because she talks about putting wormwood on her dug so that Juliet won't, to wean her from nursing, but she goes backwards and she says, oh, you go on your back by men and then get pregnant by them. So it's this whole body long monologue, soliloquy, whatever, by the nurse. And just the specific mention of wormwood brings in not only the bitterness, but the pushing away in a way, but also the pregnancy aspect, which is what she jumps to next. So it's sort of fascinating how all of these words and all of these plants, which is what we focus on, are little prisms of understanding for the larger picture. And they cast different light depending on how you just turn it a little bit, Anyway, and Hamlet says wormwood, wormwood, right after the mousetrap play where the queen is talking about how she married the other brother after the husband is dead. And he's sort of like, I think, using it as a detox mantra in a way, wormwood, wormwood, because by getting rid of the intestinal parasites or any parasites, oh my God, it could be the parasitic aspect of it too, the anti-parasitic.
And thinking about what you were saying about the weaning aspect, it's probably my guess that maybe sort of back, in Shakespearean times, because wormwood is so bitter, it's the kind of thing that would make a child go. Yes. Yeah, she wouldn't even get would be my getting it in her mouth. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so Hannah, the line of the day: when I consider everything that grows, holds in perfection but a little moment. You can do that, and it would be great for your walks that you give, right? So Hannah gives these. If you happen to be anywhere near Lincolnshire, go on a walk with Hannah and find the plants in the wild. It's really exciting. We walked around Lincolnshire when I was there and smushed up some St. John's wort, which is beautifully yellow and then turns all red and pink on your fingers, just kind of like quince. Anyway, it was fascinating. So I'm going back in September, and Hannah and I, and also Jane from the Medlar Orchard in Norfolk, are all going to go to the Chelsea Flower Show. And Chris Sharples, who's an amazing, amazing florist. So maybe we could do like a little mini live from there. That would be wild and fun. Anyway, stay tuned. Coming up next in this month is the cocktail of the month for Comedy of Errors. And I don't know, all sorts of other things. And do check out Hannah's podcast, The Edge of the Hedge. See you soon. I'll see you soon.